On to the next story, Colin. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. Now, you and I love good takes, guys who are coming out of the blue with stuff. How about this from former Steelers quarterback Charlie Batch on why Aaron Rodgers is not a done deal yet in Pittsburgh? This is original and fresh. Take a listen.
When it comes to Aaron, this is a guy who outplayed his contract, and I will stand by this, and there's not many people out there. I may be the only one saying this at this particular point. This decision is coming down to money. The Steelers would like him to come back, yes, but it's not going to be at the $13 million number. I'm sure Aaron, at some point, I have not spoken to him, but I'm sure his representatives are wanting something closer to 30. Yeah. And you hope that somewhere you meet in the middle.
Yeah, I think Charlie's right, and I think Aaron did absolutely outplay his contract, and I think Aaron making $32 million a year is reasonable. Absolutely.
Whoa,
in that Baker Sam Darnold class, absolutely.
Holy, so I did not expect that take from you. I thought this was great from Charlie Batch. Here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers at that $13 million price helps Pittsburgh be a playoff team.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers at 32?
Yeah, he gave you that, and then he outplayed his contract. So he gave you that at 13. Okay, he made the offense, which was atrocious in the red zone, excellent. The team had fewer turnovers. It was a smarter offense due to Aaron. Aaron has no obligation to give you multiple years at it's not even team friendly. They basically got him for free.
Yeah, why? Because he stunk with the Jets. He was terrible.
Now he doesn't stink.
Well, he had one good year.
Well, sorry. Who's got the leverage?
So
Will Howard?
Here's my counter. Aaron, thank you for playing on $13 million. That was awesome. You helped us get to the playoffs by taking a low contract. Hey, man, do you want to win again? Do you want to try to win again?
Yeah,
we'll love you at 15.
I'll say there's a difference between a small number and a ridiculous number. 30 is still incredibly team friendly. 13 is giving it away.
Fine. What about 20, Aaron? Will you do 20?
No, I'm going to do over 20.
How about 20 with incentives?
How about 28 with incentives that are easy to reach and get to 33?
Fine. How about go into your career? Your last pass was a pick six.
How
Enjoy
about
the
having
darkness retreats and irrelevance.
$300 million in the bank, Hall of Famer, and your last year, you were darn good.
Yeah. You know, this is a guy who craves the spotlight. He's going on podcasts, talking, play football, lock in. Come play your final year. Let's make a run. Play for $18 million. Sacrifice Aaron Rodgers. That's who you are. Do it. You in?
Yeah.
That's a firm no from Cowherd. All right, final.
Okay. All right. Man, it's honestly pretty entertaining to see just how much J-Mac genuinely despises Aaron Rodgers. The conversation around the contract is actually really fascinating. Because obviously, this goes without saying, when you have a quarterback at $10 or $15 million, right? Like, yeah, that's a tremendous advantage. A huge, massive, enormous advantage. He was clearly a far better quarterback than a $10 million quarterback. We all know that. We know that. These are just the basic, fundamental, bottom-line numbers: completion percentage, passing yards, touchdown to interception ratio, passer rating, etc. And I'd actually argue that a lot of that understates what Aaron Rodgers brought to the table, simply because of what he was able to do from an operational standpoint. What's interesting is, snorts, this is where the money side of things always gets a bit murky. And it's just some of the money you don't spend against the salary cap can get carried forward. Some of it, obviously not all of it. Otherwise, teams would just stockpile endlessly, and that's clearly not how it operates. But I don't really know how much that ultimately ends up mattering in terms of what can roll over to the next year in the broader scheme of things. It either ends up being a legitimate factor where you're like, hey, doing this really helps us leverage X, Y, and Z, or it's more like, it ends up not having that much of an impact. Or alternatively, the money just gets distributed to the NFLPA. So again, it's not like it's going back to the owners, the coaches, or management. It's going back out into the system. So when you're talking about a contract for just one season, unless they're trying to structure a 2-year deal. Unless Aaron's like, I want a 2-year contract, 50 or 60 million, right? 30 per year or something. Then it's like, okay, that conversation makes sense to me. But if it's just a 1-year rental, the money, in theory, should already add up, right? Like, they've already got, they should, for the most part, have the financial side of this roster pretty much squared away. Pretty much locked in. The way I'm looking at it is almost like monopoly money in the sense of, alright, Aaron, I'm just throwing out a number here, 25 million left over. Here you go. We've already got everyone else figured out. Here's the 25 million. That's all there is. We've got no more money to spend. That's it. We're not going to undercut someone else. We're not going to try to rework someone else's deal, etc. It's just, this is what we've got. Now, again, if it's a 2-year deal, then I understand. But if it's just this single year, unless, again, the whole rollover thing matters significantly for the following year. Okay, so it's even more than I initially thought. Unspent money at the end of the league year carries over into the next season. There's no maximum limit to what can be rolled over, but teams have to ND at least a certain amount in cash over a 4-year period. Rollover money is often used for player contract bonuses and restructuring to manage cap hits. They really love to make your head spin with this stuff. It's why they hire people specifically just to handle all of this because it's so frustrating to keep trying to figure out. NFL teams can roll over 100% of their unused salary cap space from one league year to the next. This carryover is added directly to the following season's base salary cap, giving teams additional financial flexibility to manage contracts, like the $50 million in unused cap reported by the 49ers for 2025. That's just one example. Yeah. So then it really does become a situation of managing the future as well, not just focusing on the immediate season. So yeah, in a lot of ways, that's what makes this interesting. Because then this conversation isn't necessarily fully accurate. The whole idea of, hey, you taking a discount allows us to be a playoff contender. But if you don't, then we're not. The team would essentially be the same at this point. Now, you would want Aaron Rodgers to take a discount for next year when he might not even be playing. And at that point, that's not Aaron's obligation. So, for the Steelers, it's an interesting situation. They rolled over, so 17 million, as you can see. And then they've got some dead money, 12 million. So, the current salary cap space right now, 26 million. What's interesting is, let's say Aaron goes for 15 million. That leaves 12 million left to spend. But when you look at this, right? You've got how much you're paying the draft class, bonuses, etc. You're looking at 10 million. And then if you're trying to rework the contracts of some other players, like other rookie deals you're looking to extend, etc., then that money can also be accounted for. But this is where you can always create more room. You can always restructure. You can restructure what? Metcalf, Ramsey. You can restructure contracts. And push the cap hits further down the road. Further down the years. Not like this year, but further down. But when you look at the cap hits, like, Aaron Rodgers should be getting less than this. He should be getting less than Jalen Ramsey. Patrick Queen? Like, that doesn't really make sense. And all those players who could be restructured and whatnot, they'll all do it because they get the money. It doesn't change anything for them. Every single one of those players is like, yeah, I'll restructure. Because if anything, they end up getting more money since their salary gets converted. So a lot of that money they just end up getting straight up. They're like, okay, do you want the money right now? And they're like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. Fantastic. The dead cap money is money that you've already paid the player. It's already been accounted for. So they're like, sure, I'll take it. So I tease just that the owner has to be willing to actually pay that money. So it's not a matter of Aaron at this point. It's really not. You've pretty much got the team locked in right now for the most part, obviously. You can give Aaron essentially, and this is where everyone's just kind of making up numbers. Maybe they want to do 15, and maybe he just wants 20 or 25. I had to call him throughout like 30 million. They're like, I don't really know. Again, this is why, weirdly enough, it's monopoly money. You can either try to save some of the money so you can roll it over, as we saw, that rollover from last season technically helped out this season right now with some of the money for them to work with. Although you could have made the argument that if you spent that money last year, your team might have potentially even been better. But I don't know, at this point I don't remember exactly how free agency all went down. But you can obviously still clear up some money. But anytime you clear up some money, you're somewhat making it more difficult for yourself moving into the future. So then the question remains, can you do damage this season right now? And if the answer is yes, there really isn't an argument, if we're being honest with ourselves. If you're looking to actually utilize Aaron Rodgers' services right now, there is no real discussion of, Aaron, if you just take a pay cut, we can be a great team this year. If you don't, then it's going to be a lot harder for us to build a great team. That's actually not financially accurate. That doesn't, at least to my understanding of how I'm breaking some of this down and looking at it, seem to make a whole lot of sense at all. And again, it's one thing if this was like pre-free agency, and it was like, we really need to take a big pay cut because we want to buy this player and that player. But all of that has already been done, the moves, the trades, etc. There are a couple of things out there, but just to maybe round out the roster. But like, this is it. Not to mention, you can restructure just one of those names I pointed out to you, and that frees up more than enough money. Like, that's reality. If you restructure like a Ramsey contract or TJ Watt, whoever, I'm not sure if it was Ramsey, but one of them. Just one of those guys, you free up more money than if Aaron Rodgers took a pay cut. And all that ends up affecting is 2028, 2029, or something. And that's not Aaron's responsibility. It's really not. I'm all for players taking deals like that, and Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career. But to me, the way I look at it is, if I'm in Aaron's shoes, if it was a necessity, if it was like, Aaron, we need you to take this lower salary because that's what allows us to build this team so we can be competitive this year. Then I do think it's more on Aaron's shoulders to be a team player. But if you're really just trying to talk about the future and the owner doesn't want to front some of the money to restructure someone's deal, it's like, that has nothing to do with me. And that's on you. You want me to take a discount just because, at that point? That's absurd. That's absurd. So that's why it all depends. And again, if we were talking about going into free agency more heavily now, and it's like, Aaron, if you do this, we're going to be able to get this player and that player and this player, that's not really the situation right now. And again, it can't be understated that having a quarterback for like $30 million is already a massive discount alone. And that's kind of what Colin was arguing, this idea that for Aaron to be workable, he needs to get paid $15 million or something. And it's like, dude, if you can have a quarterback with the degree of Aaron's competence, $30 million is 100% worth it. And it's understandable. So, this is just the salary cap voodoo that we are all faced with trying to make sense of every single season. And it just continues to be, a really big mess, but my read on it at this point is that it shouldn't be on Aaron's shoulders right now. Unless I get different information, new information, this feels like the Steelers kind of trying to have their cake and eat it, too. And JJ Max's framing of Aaron, if you take this less money, that's how we can build a playoff team, it's like, no, that's actually incorrect. That's just straight up incorrect. You're trying to get me at a discount right now. You're trying to roll over some money next season. There's no other money that you're realistically going to spend right now that's going to make that much of a major impact, so we can stop pretending. And the margins you're working with right now, any of the players you are potentially maybe looking to make some moves with that would then require you to adjust the money right now. You would be able to restructure someone else's deal in a second and free up that money. We're not talking about where you have to free up space, and now you're going to have to pay someone's pretty large salary of like 25 or 35 million for someone else's player, right? Another edge rusher or something. I don't know who that is right now in this moment of time where something like that would be going down. And like I said, even if that was the case, you'd still be able to restructure multiple players' deals. But again, the owner has to be willing to front the money. That becomes that piece right there. So it's pretty interesting, honestly. It is interesting. It's mathematically annoying, and you're forced to try to make some of these guesses without really having all the information because for all we know the Pittsburgh Steelers actually have a concrete 3-year plan, and that's why they don't want to do something like this. Or maybe the owner's like, I'm not fronting out, we're not restructuring any of these deals because I'm not putting that money in escrow right now. We're not doing that. You just don't act. You only know. You don't, because it could be a whole thing of what they're looking to roll over. But then also when they're rolling over money and the whole thing where you have to spend at least 89% of it within the 4-year window. Like, I'm unsure how that 4-year window even officially operates, if it's always moving, and you're always taking 4 years from one point like, oh man. Like I said, they never really want you to know how smoothly this works. Which, you know, if you really watch any sports show, and if you really think about it, NFL Live, The Herd, first things first, it's never actually accurately broken down and discussed because it really is a legitimate mess, and I don't think anyone ever wants anyone to look too closely at how some of this stuff really goes. People just want to look at the big numbers. They're like, oh, you signed a $200 million deal, or, they got him for 4 years, $80 million. Like that. They just want to leave it at that. Any of the other nuances of how some of this stuff works, they're just like, nobody, it's like the NFL's just kind of like, nah, don't worry about any of this. We just want you to focus on guaranteed money, how many years you're playing for, and what money you're expected to get. But like the whole thing of cap hits with the contract as a whole, bonuses, void years, dead cap, all of that is just like, my goodness. My goodness. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? How do you make sense, honestly, how do you guys make sense of all of these financials and all of this type of stuff? I mean, it's a lot, but I'm curious how some of this lands for all of you, and where do you think Aaron should be? I think I've made a decent enough argument right here that kind of highlights, again, based on my understanding, that it's not a matter of Aaron taking a pay cut so this team can be competitive. That, to me, my read on this situation, does not seem to be what it actually is. So let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions, get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. Want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.